Canaveral to take astronauts to the moon for the first time in more than 50 years. We'll talk about the rocket and the Artemis 2 mission Monday at noon.
Support for WUSF comes from listeners like you and from Citizens Property Insurance. Whether recovering or preparing for the next storm, Citizens is available to their customers. Claims can be tracked and more information is available online at citizensfla.com or reported by calling a live Citizens representative. Women of Resistance is a fusion of music, art, and dance that brings to life the women of World War II who risked everything to fight oppression. March 25th and 26th at the New Tampa Performing Arts Center. For tickets, visit womenofresistance.org.
NASA's most powerful rocket ever is almost ready to blast off for the moon. Yes, we're going back. I'm Matthew Petty, and coming up on Florida Matters Live and Local, we'll talk about what this means for the future of space exploration. Should we be spending more than $90 billion to send astronauts back to the moon? Join the conversation. Let us know what you think. Call 813-755-6562 or email floridamatters@wusf.org. Also this hour, if there's a pothole which needs fixing in your neighbourhood, chances are you may have used a platform called See-Click Fix to report it. You'll hear how one Tampa Bay community uses the service to keep local government services running smoothly. And Thin Mints, anyone? If you love Girl Scout cookies, you already know it's cookie season. Coming up, learn how selling cookies helps Girl Scouts develop real-world business skills. All this and more, plus your calls and emails, coming up after these headlines.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Kristen Wright. The federal government remains in a partial shutdown. Lawmakers disagree on several fronts, especially immigration enforcement operations. NPR's Luke Garrett reports the Senate approved a measure to fund the Department of Homeland Security only through February 13th, as lawmakers try to come up with an agreement on policies for ICE.
Speaker Johnson told Fox News he and Trump support some changes to DHS.
For example, we want body cameras on immigration and customs enforcement agents.
But Johnson made clear the GOP won't budge on issues of DHS agents hiding their identities with masks, citing officer safety. This doesn't line up with the changes Democrats want.
Speaker Johnson says the earliest the House may vote is tomorrow. Some employees of key agencies, like the Pentagon, the Departments of Education and Labor, are either furloughed or working without pay. President Trump is sending mixed signals on his plans for Iran. This raises the possibility of either a military strike or negotiations. Meanwhile, Iran's leader is warning a U.S. attack could ignite a wider Middle East war. NPR's Greg Myrie reports.
The U.S. buildup in the region includes an aircraft carrier, multiple additional ships, and dozens of warplanes. President Trump describes the force as an armada and says the strike would be much more forceful than the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facilities last June. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, spoke Sunday saying, quote, "The Americans should know if they start a war, this time it will be a regional war. Iran was hard hit last summer, but still has missiles capable of striking U.S. and Israeli targets in the region." Trump also says Iran wants a deal to avoid a conflict, but so far, no negotiations have been announced. Greg Myrie, NPR News, Washington.
The Walt Disney Company reported better-than-expected quarterly results. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the entertainment company is drawing fans to both movie theaters and theme parks.
Disney's movie studio did a strong box office business thanks to hits like Zootopia 2 and the latest Avatar movie. The company's theme parks and cruise ship division reported record revenue, although Disney warned international visits to its theme parks in California and Florida could suffer in the current quarter. Economists are praising President Trump's latest pick to head the agency that tracks inflation and unemployment. Brett Matsumoto is described as a technocratic data nerd. Trump fired the agency's previous leader last August after a disappointing jobs report. An earlier nominee withdrew after criticism that he was overly partisan and lacked experience. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
A series of small earthquakes rattled the San Francisco Bay Area today. The most powerful was a magnitude 4.2. The area's had a lot of seismic activity recently. This is NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive, with small business insurance for protecting a variety of business types with multiple coverage options, designed to fit business owners' needs. More about small business insurance is at progressivecommercial.com.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. People's right to protest is protected by the First Amendment, but the recent confrontations nationwide between law enforcement and demonstrators are putting a spotlight on the safety of everyone involved. Jerry Funt is with the Tampa chapter of the National Lawyers Guild. He says there's a difference between
knowing what your rights are and knowing what your risks are.
For example, carrying a firearm with a permit is legal in some public places in Florida, as long as you're not brandishing the weapon or inciting violence. But Funt says that could come with risks at a protest.
That right is one that they would argue opens you up to the possibility of being shot and killed.
The state of Florida restricts firearms in a number of public spaces, including schools, government buildings, and courthouses. For a guide on what to know if you're going to a protest, you can go to WUSF.org. Is Ybor City safe? That'll be the subject of a town hall tonight after a high-speed chase resulted in a crash that killed 4 people outside a bar in November. It raised the question of whether Ybor streets ought to be closed to car traffic during the busy weekends. Tampa City Council member Alan Clendenin tells FloridaMatters Live and local police there say keeping the streets open helps control large crowds that could gather in closed streets.
There is a sense of, I won't want to say calming element of having the open street, but it does tame things down a bit.
Tom DeGeorge, the owner of Crowbar, agreed.
We can't do that with this district every single Friday and Saturday where it's just shut off to the world. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Clendenin says the city has increased its police presence and is looking into other improvements to make the roads safer. This town hall will be held at 6 p.m. at Centro Asturiano de Tampa, and you can hear more of the conversation about being safe in Ybor City at WUSF.org. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
Want to know what's happening here in the Capitol? I'm Douglas Soul, covering the state government for Your Florida. Visit WUSF.org/YourFlorida.
At WUSF, support comes from the people who listen, like you. Also, Sarasota Memorial Hospital, the only hospital in Florida to consistently earn a 5-star rating from the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services since 2016. You can learn more at smh.com.
This is Florida Matters, live and local, sponsored by Badawi Law, and we're broadcasting from the doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WSF in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. Now, if you'd been out at the Kennedy Space Center recently on a Saturday morning, you could have caught a glimpse of something people have not seen for more than 50 years, a 322-foot-tall moon rocket perched on top of a massive transporter, trundling very, very slowly out to the launch pad. That rocket is a bit taller than the Statue of Liberty. Imagine that, Lady Liberty rolling down the highway at a very sedate 1 mile per hour, just a bit less than that. Watching it was NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman. He admitted the 12-hour journey to the launch pad was a bit of a slow start for the mission, but the pace will pick up.
This vehicle, along with about 8.8 million pounds of thrust, is going to accelerate the Artemis 2 crew here to near-Earth escape velocities, so just under 25,000 miles per hour, farther into space than we've ever sent humans before around the moon, back here safely to Earth.
Now, the program that will take astronauts back to the moon is called Artemis. The plan is to land them on the moon by 2027. The rocket is the SLS, the Space Launch System, and the capsule they'll travel in is called the Orion. Isaacman himself has been to space a couple of times on commercial missions flown by SpaceX. Well, joining us to talk more about the Artemis 2 mission and the mighty rocket that'll blast the Orion capsule carrying 4 astronauts into deep space, Central Florida Public Media's Brendan Byrne. He's the host of the Space Exploration podcast, Are We There Yet? Brendan, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt.
And how about you? Are you driving across the state to watch the launch? Do you remember seeing the Apollo missions blast into space? And should we be spending more than $90 billion to send astronauts back to the moon again? Let us know what you think. Call 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562, talking about NASA's return of astronauts to the moon. Brendan, you spent quite a bit of time reporting on this program. Just give us a sense of the size and scale of the rocket and the spacecraft perched at the top of it.
It's huge. As you mentioned in the intro, it's 322 feet tall, millions of pounds on that mobile launcher. And the capsule that's sitting atop of it is much larger than the Apollo capsules that we've seen go to the moon. They held 3 people in them. The Orion space capsule will hold 4 people in them. So it's much larger. Not to say it's roomier. It's still quite cramped for those 4 astronauts, but it is massive. If you do see the SLS rocket, you'll notice that there are those solid rocket boosters that you might remember from the space shuttle program.
Sure.
Those are 177 feet tall. The core stage is 212 feet. I mean, this thing is huge. And below it is 4 SR-25 engines that are derived from the space shuttle program. Space shuttle had 3. SLS has 4 of these. So a lot of thrust, as Jared Isaac mentioned in that clip, to get these astronauts off the planet and into an orbit or into a trip around the moon and back.
Now, there's a lot of jargon in NASA terminology, Brendan. We were messaging just before. You were talking about something called a wet dress rehearsal. That's something Isaacman's talked about himself too. What exactly is it, and what's happening there?
This is a really critical test of the SLS rocket. So essentially what the wet dress rehearsal is, it is a simulation of what would happen on launch day. It's like almost 2 days long, 45 hours, 48 hours long. And it goes all the way to about 30 seconds before they would actually launch SLS. It gives a chance for teams to get into position, learn what they're doing, rehearse what's happening, and they actually fuel up the rocket, which this is very important because, as we noticed from the first Artemis 1 mission, the fuel that is used, the propellant, liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. Liquid hydrogen is a very, very small molecule, and it likes to leak. So it likes to come out of the rocket. So they're making sure that there's no leaks, making sure that they can tank this. It's super, super cold. This is cryogenic fuel and propellant. So really the wet dress rehearsal is a critical test in that. Now, last hour, the launch director, Charlie Blackwell Thompson, just gave the go-ahead to begin fueling the SLS rocket for this critical test. So this is a very, very important step forward. And they are moving towards a practice launch around 9 p.m. today. So they'll take what they learned from today and make that decision to see if they can launch in this February window, which is closing quite quickly, but there are still a few days left if everything goes as planned today.
Are people going to be able to hear this wet dress? I mean, that's a lot of power fueling up and firing off. So are people going to hear the rocket kind of rumbling away?
They're not going to fire the engines. So really,
okay.
they're just loading the tank up. Now, if you were close by, you would certainly hear the groaning of the rocket as the kind of the tanks get larger and smaller as these different temperature fuels enter the tanks. That's totally normal. It's designed to do that. You can watch. There's a 24/7 live stream from NASA, and you'll actually see kind of puffs of condensation come out. So the rocket will be groaning. It will be steaming. It will certainly be quite animated if you were out there, but they are not firing the engines much like they would for a hot fire, which is another test that's used for other types of rockets. They're going to stop about 29 seconds before they would actually do that.
Okay, so and when is that launch window? I mean, that's something that people are probably watching quite avidly. You mentioned that that's closing fast. So when might this thing actually lift off with astronauts on top of it?
We're going to find out this week whether or not it is possible. I believe at last check, the earliest they can launch would be February 8th. So they've already lost 2 days in the window. They would not be able to launch on the 9th. They could possibly launch on the 10th or 11th. So you're looking at the 8th, the 10th, or the 11th of February. If that doesn't work, we have to wait until March. There are a lot, because of where the moon is in the sky, they can only launch at the start of each month. So if everything goes well and goes as planned and launch mission managers and launch directors give the go-ahead for the real deal, we could see something as early as Sunday the 8th, but don't drive over to the Cape just yet. Let's wait to see how this test goes, because the last time they went to launch the Artemis and SLS rocket, they had to do 4 of these wet dress rehearsals to make sure that the hydrogen really did not want to stay inside the rocket. So hopefully they have fixed that, and we only need this one wet dress rehearsal.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking about NASA's SLS space launch system, the mighty rocket that is going to carry 4 astronauts around the moon. We're not quite sure when exactly that is, but we're talking with Brendan Byrne, the host of Central Florida Public Media's Space Exploration Podcast, Are We There Yet? To find out more, if you have some thoughts on this, maybe you remember the last time we went to the moon and those missions, the Apollo missions, maybe you're thinking, is it worth sending astronauts back to the moon again? Give us a call. Let us know what you think. 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562, or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. So let's just hear a little bit from Commander Reed Wiseman, one of the 4 astronauts who's going to strap into this when it actually lifts off. Here he is.
We see this beautiful hardware behind us, the SLS, the Orion. But for this crew, we've been on this journey for about 2.5 years. And we truly look at that and see teamwork.
All right, so a lot of work has gone into this. It's been a very long journey. Just to kind of back up a little bit, I mean, President Trump kind of restarted the manned missions to the moon, right? That had been kind of put on ice, so to speak, by the previous administration. So what has been happening, I guess, with NASA's kind of plans to get this all up and running? Because in the background, there's also been commercial companies like SpaceX, Elon Musk, developing their own deep space rocket as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think every president since the first Bush has wanted to send NASA back to the moon. And, you know, to Trump's credit, in his first administration, the president really did push for this Artemis mission. You know, that kind of steamrolled this and accelerated the development of SLS and this mission. We saw a successful uncrewed mission in 2022. And, you know, since returning to office, President Trump has kind of moved this quicker as well. I mean, this is a very rare time in space flight where the schedule has moved, as we call, to the left, right? Normally, we're talking about delays, moving the timeline to the right, but we're actually moving to the left on this one. It's earlier in the year than anticipated. So there is certainly a big push by this administration to get this happening. Now, there are a lot of things that have to happen for this to work. Artemis 2 is just doing a flyby of the moon, right? It's going to launch from Kennedy Space Center. It's going to hang out in orbit for, I think, about 2 days or 2 orbits, and then fly to the moon and then come back, testing all these critical systems. Artemis 3 is when astronauts are actually going to land on the moon. And that is where private companies like SpaceX come in. They are developing the lunar landing system that will take astronauts from the Orion space capsule to the surface of the moon using this other massive rocket that they are developing called Starship. You've probably seen the headlines or the news clips on X. It likes to blow up quite a bit, and that's the way NASA or that's the way SpaceX works. Their iterative design,
move
where they
fast
blow
and
things
break
up and
things,
they learn.
right? It's kind of a tick mantra.
Exactly. So there are some concerns that is taking longer than anticipated. There is another company, Blue Origin, run by Jeff Bezos, who's going to be building a lunar lander as well. So all of these things have to come into play, but really, Artemis 2, that's going to launch as early as February 10th, that has to go well. This is the stepping stone for all of those other things to fall into place.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to most about this mission in the last 30 seconds or so we have here left, Brendan?
Matt, you've known me long enough to know that I'm going to be interested in the toilet. This will be the first time we are sending a toilet to the moon. So it will be very interesting to see how that works, along with all the other life support systems that are going to be necessary to send more crews there longer and to actually live and work on the moon. So yeah, I'm going to be watching the toilet, Matt.
Ad astra per latrina, as they say in the space business.
Exactly.
Brendan Byrne hosting the Space Exploration Podcast. Are we there yet? Watching closely to see what happens in those toilets and, of course, those massive fuel tanks on the SLS. Thanks for joining us on Thanks for joining us on WUSF's. And you can check out more of his reporting on Are We There Yet? The Central Florida Public Media Space Exploration Podcast. Thanks a lot, Brendan.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here.
You're listening to Florida Matters Live and Local. Coming up next, we'll get a check-in with Tallahassee, see what's going on in the state capitol as the legislative session continues. Stay with us.
Support for the Zest podcast comes from WUSF members and Adelaide Interiors, with a new location now open on Kennedy Boulevard in Tampa, offering hands-on learning sessions in their wellness kitchen, where design meets well-being. Learn more and see the schedule at adelaide.com. Sarasota Opera presents its 2026 Winter Opera Festival featuring Puccini's La Bohème, Floyd's Susanna, and more. These performances run February 14th through March 29th. Tickets at sarasotaopera.org.
Still holding on to a car you don't drive anymore? Give it new purpose this season. Donate your car, truck, or boat to WUSF and help keep trustworthy local journalism strong. It's easy, and it may mean a tax deduction. Call 866-WUSF-CAR or visit WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Presidential portraits in school, banning ICE agents from wearing masks. As always, there's a lot going on in the Florida legislature. Here to tell us more is your Florida's Douglas Soul. Thanks for being with us again, Douglas.
Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Now, let's talk about one of the bills that you've been paying close attention to in the past week or so, a bill making its way through the legislature that would allow some presidential portraits in schools. Let's listen first to Senator Danny Burgess, who argued for the impact of presidential portraits in school buildings.
We used to have these figures in classrooms, in every classroom across the country, really post-Civil War, to represent that unifying force we needed, and that's what they ultimately represent, warts and all, and that's the point, right? To get back to our roots.
All right, so Douglas, what is the deal with this bill? What presidential portraits could kids start seeing in their hallways if this thing makes it through?
Yeah, well, apologies to Millard Fillmore, the 13th president, but Lincoln and Washington are certainly the most widely known U.S. presidents in our history. They are also certainly most commonly in the bills found in my wallet. I usually don't have 20s, usually 1s and 5s. This legislation would require those portraits of Lincoln and Washington to be put up in a conspicuous place in each public school across the state. Supporters of this legislation, as listeners just heard, think that civic understanding among our nation's and our state's youth is pretty low, and they view putting these portraits up as a way to boost it and as a way to create conversations among kids looking at it.
Is there any pushback that you're hearing?
So it's interesting. When I went into this committee meeting last week, all of the lawmakers and most of the people in that committee room, myself included, thought that the meeting was going to go very, very quickly. I thought this bill was going to be heard and voted on within 15 minutes. But a big contingent of teens showed up to discuss this bill in the public comment period. There was some debates between lawmakers and the speakers, which was always really interesting to see. Some of them thought that the best way to improve civic understanding, including of Lincoln and Washington and their historical achievements, was to change the curriculum and not just add up pictures. Interestingly, an original version of this bill would require those portraits in every elementary school classroom and every K through 12 social studies classroom. So initially, this bill was a lot more wide-ranging in how many portraits would be up, but due to concerns about cost and implementation difficulties, they changed it to just in every public school. And of note, some years ago, in 2018, I believe, lawmakers passed a bill that required "In God We Trust" to be put up in a conspicuous location in every public school. So we don't completely know where these portraits would be put up, but I imagine if you already have to put up "In God We Trust" in a conspicuous spot, you might see those portraits beside it.
Yeah, it's interesting if you say that there's a bunch of teens, presumably school kids, kind of coming in and debating this, one of these bills in process. I mean, that's pretty in the weeds. That suggests that maybe the kids are a little more civically engaged than we might think, and then the folks who say we need more kind of civic engagement are thinking themselves.
You know, I talked to the bill sponsor, Danny Burgess, after this meeting, and he actually called it he thought his favorite meeting that he'd ever been a part of because of that back and forth dialogue we saw. So a good point from you, Matthew.
Now, let's talk about something which is probably a little more controversial. Democrats pushing to ban ICE agents from wearing masks, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, and from entering schools and churches. What can you tell us about the details of this bill?
The first thing to emphasize is this bill isn't likely going to pass. Republicans, after all, have the legislative supermajority, And even if it did pass, it would face, I would imagine, likely court challenges. But the tactics of ICE are being widely debated right now. And this is the Florida Democrats making a statement. As you mentioned, one of the bills they're pitching would ban ICE agents from wearing masks in most circumstances when they're on duty. It would also apply to local law enforcement working with them. I think we've all seen the videos of people hopping out of vans, wearing masks, and detaining certain individuals. Certainly has ignited a lot of conversation that I see every time I open up my X account or Facebook account. It's one of the most talked about things right now, ICE and ICE tactics. And this is Democrats weighing in. As mentioned, once again, supermajority Republicans, I don't think they're going to want to take this up, but it's a way that Democrats can assert some of their influence in the process.
And let's just hear a little bit from Representative Angie Nixon. She's a Democrat from Jacksonville and one of the sponsors of SB 316 or HB 419.
If you have the power to detain a Floridian, they have the right to know who you are. This is about safety for our communities through transparency. We are a democracy. We are not a dictatorship.
So, Douglas, I imagine whatever happens to this bill, whatever the fate of it, there is going to be more debate about this in the days and weeks ahead.
Oh, definitely. I don't think a day is going to pass without that debate happening in the Florida Capitol.
Let's talk about constitutional amendments, citizen-led constitutional amendments. Some news that you're following this week, I understand. None of these citizen-led constitutional amendments, there's almost 24 of them, made it onto the ballot. What can you tell us about this?
Well, first off, that is true as in terms of what the state says. The campaign for the most well-known amendment, at least the one that I think a lot of people expected to make it on the ballot in November, the recreational marijuana one, their campaign says that it's a premature announcement that counties are still reporting tallied signature amounts. The recreational marijuana amendment, I think most listeners remember in 2024, it was also on the ballot. The DeSantis administration controversially used state taxpayer money to campaign against it, and it didn't pass by percentage points. This was the campaign is having another go at it, and they actually did gather enough signatures. You need to have it nearly 900,000 signatures to make it on the ballot, validated signatures, that is. But the state fought against some of the signatures, and they had a lot of the signatures thrown out. And so the marijuana campaign was below the needed threshold. And so they've been kind of in a flurry of activity trying to make it up and make it back.
Yeah.
And they were relatively close. And obviously the campaign is still maintaining that they may have reached it. But I think we're going to be seeing this develop over the next couple of days.
Yeah.
But certainly we know that the state and the state leaders do not want this to make the ballot. And how this develops is going to be of huge importance because, recreational marijuana market would certainly be a notable thing in such a conservative-led state.
Yeah, a big legislative and economic story. Finally, quickly, if we could, Senate President Alberton has been in hospital. What's the latest with him?
He is back in business this week. He had a health scare last week. He went to the Tallahassee area hospital with chest pain, and a blood clot was found in his lungs. From there, he was transferred to Gainesville for more testing, where, even more worryingly, a potential abnormality was found in his heart. But Alberton says after more testing, no abnormality was found. He does say that there's still a recovery process with this blood clot in his lung and that he will have to adjust to new medicine. But he's even doing media availability this week. So we're looking forward to asking him questions here soon.
We're going to have to leave it there, but Douglas Soul with the Your Florida team covering the state capitol and how laws made there impact you and your neighbors. Douglas, thanks so much as always.
Thanks for having me on as always.
Well, coming up next, See, Click, Fix, the inside track on how one Tampa Bay city fills potholes and keeps services running smoothly with your help. Stay listening to Florida Matters live and local. Much more to come after this.
I'm Emma Brisk, a WUSF Zimmerman Radio News intern. Working alongside this incredible team of passionate journalists has been an inspiring experience. No intern expects to interview the Tampa mayor on their very first day in the field, but I did, and that's exactly what makes this opportunity so unique. I'm deeply grateful for my time in the WUSF newsroom, which solidified my love for broadcasting.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from Badawi Law, offering legal services in personal injury, immigration, and auto accidents, with offices in Tampa, Florida. Office information and practice details at badawilaw.com or learn more on Instagram at Badawi Law. Tech House, celebrating 30 years as a strategic tech partner in the local community, helping small businesses navigate the terrain to stay secure and strong with AI, automation, and cloud security. More information is at tech-house.com.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. City and county services are the bread and butter of local governments, collecting trash, filling potholes, making sure buildings, parks, and playgrounds are safe. And governments are usually aided by caring citizens who see something and share what needs to be fixed. Many local municipalities in the Tampa Bay region use a platform called See, Click, Fix. As for residents to report things that need repair or attention. Now, have you used a platform like this? How do you reach out when you need something fixed in your neighborhood? Let us know. You can call 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Well, joining us for more is Maria Rodriguez. She's the Public Information Officer for Temple Terrace. Now, they call their platform Temple Terrace In Touch. Maria, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so when did you launch this platform and what made you want to do it?
When I first started working for the city of Temple Terrace, we had just a very simple form. It was called Request Tracker. And it was like a broken phone in terms of communication.
So it wasn't working?
Yes. And so we decided to launch Temple Terrace In Touch, which is See, Click, and Fix.
Yeah.
Every city gets to call it
something else. Okay.
Right. So we decided to call it Temple Terrace In Touch, and my team and I, we launched it April of last year.
Okay.
And it's been wonderful.
Okay, so what kinds of things are people calling to report, or how are they reaching out to you? And well, I guess they're reaching out to you through this platform, but what are they reporting primarily?
So what's cool about this app is that once you download it, you don't have to be a resident of the city. If you're visiting the city and you see something, a broken branch or a pothole or a light that needs to be fixed, you can use the app, open the app. It will recognize your location. So it's like GPS.
Okay.
And that helps us identify where you are, where this issue is, which comes in handy if you are not familiar with Temple Terrace, you don't know where you are. Now we know where you are. And there are 15 different categories in the app that you can choose from.
Okay.
And once you choose a category, that specific request goes to a specific departments. So we have 4 different departments on the back end of this application. We have Public Works, which deals with, potholes and broken lights and things like that.
Yeah.
We also have Parks and Rec. So if they see things like garbage at one of our parks or one of the gates not being able to open, or it's open when it's supposed to be closed. We also have community development. So if there is a problem with one of our trees, our arborist goes out there and looks at the situation. And finally, we have code compliance. So if they see something like a car parked where it's not supposed to be parked, they can go ahead and submit those requests.
Yeah. So. And are you, so this has been in effect since, you said April last year?
Yes.
So what are you finding people are reporting the most? Like, is it a preponderance of potholes? Is it a lot of like broken street lamps? Is it code compliance? Like, where are you seeing the most traffic, I guess?
I believe it's mostly potholes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we have 15 different categories.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, we have one category that falls under others.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of
miscellaneous.
Right. And so that it's convenient for those reporting the issues because they don't have to go through the 15 categories and choose one.
Right.
The problem with that is that those other requests, they come to me instead of going directly to the director.
So are you getting most of the requests from
Yes,
the other category?
exactly.
Wow. So it's a lot of work on you.
Well, I don't mind
Mm-hmm.
because once I read the request, I redirect the request to the specific department.
Mm-hmm.
But it helps when residents actually choose a category because then it goes directly to the specific department.
Yeah. If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Maria Rodriguez. She is the Public Information Officer for Temple Terrace. We're talking about C-Click Fix. Their platform in Temple Terrace is called Temple Terrace In Touch. If you've used one of these platforms, either in Temple Terrace or another city or municipality, call and tell us about it. What did you get in touch for? How was that experience? You can reach us at 813-755-6562 or email floridamatters@wusf.org. It seems like, Maria, over the weekend there was quite a few requests about running water. Was that because of the cold weather?
Yes. And the public works crew were doing some maintenance work in some areas, but those issues were quickly solved over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to actually answer one of those requests was from a resident who spoke Spanish, and as a bilingual PIO, I was able to speak to that resident, so that was really nice.
Oh, that's good. So do you like that aspect of this part of your job, being able to actually contact people directly and talk to them?
Yes, it's actually something that I want residents and anyone listening to understand, that once we get this request, it's not an AI agent. They are speaking with city officials, city staff. They're speaking with real people every single time, like throughout the entire request, from the moment it's open all the way until it's closed. They're speaking to real people.
Now, if you live in the city of St. Petersburg, Clearwater, or any other place that uses C-Click Fix, want to hear how it's helped you stay better connected and engaged as a resident, or maybe it could be better. Maybe you can think of some improvements. Call and join the conversation, 813-755-6562, or email us, FloridaMatters@WUSF. With us is Maria Rodriguez, the Public Information Officer for the city of Temple Terrace, talking about how they use an app to fix things around the city. Okay, so what's the feedback been like from residents? What are they telling you about it?
We've overwhelmingly positive feedback. They enjoy how easy it is to use the app. It's very straightforward, even for those who don't consider themselves tech savvy.
Mm-hmm.
But we also give residents the opportunity to submit requests by just going to our website, templeterrace.gov.
Mm-hmm.
They can quickly submit a request. They don't have to download the app, even though we have had a lot of downloads. And we have a banner with a QR code that greets people when they visit the city hall. And we have had 1,350 scans. So people are downloading our app and they're using it.
Yeah.
But for those residents who prefer to go to the city's website, templeterrace.gov, and submit a request, they can do so as well.
Okay.
But overall, it's been very positive.
Presumably the people who are going to City Hall anyway, they're pretty engaged residents, right? They've gone there with something to say, so they're going to be kind of looking out for opportunities to engage more.
Yes, sir. They are. They go either to pay a bill or to one of our city council meetings, or just to, sometimes they go see the art that we have on City Hall. Those change every quarterly or every 6 months. So come visit us. We always have something new at City Hall.
Now, do you find that amongst the different departments, those 4 different departments, is there any kind of competitive spirit if they see one of these requests coming in? Who can be fastest to get this fixed?
They're pretty fast when it comes to getting this request completed. Public Works, they get the most.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these requests, they get the request and they also, send those requests to the specific departments, but they're the ones that get the most. And like I said, they're pretty fast. The turnaround is pretty fast.
Yeah.
But no competition. I know that's your question, but no competition.
As yet, maybe some folks from those departments are listening and they can get something going. Okay, so this is a fairly new program for the city of Temple Terrace, so you're just still kind of figuring things out. But it seems to me like this could be quite useful for a hurricane, right? Like either in the lead up or sort of post hurricane. Are you seeing this as an asset for next time a storm comes through and hits Temple Terrace along with other sort of surrounding neighborhoods?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to explain that this is not for emergencies.
Right.
That's why you have 911.
Sure, yeah.
So I tell residents, if there's an emergency, please call 911. That's why the police department and the fire department are not part of the departments that handle requests through C-Click and Fix.
Yeah. Are you getting some emergency kind of call-outs?
Sometimes we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do. So if they are in danger or there is an emergency situation, they should call 911.
Mm-hmm.
So during hurricanes, before, during, and after, they should be using the app for things like I said, a broken limb, a broken power line, if a light goes off, and things like that. That's what the app is for. And I think it's going to be very valuable when it comes to not just reporting, but also for us to find where the problem is. Because like I said, the option of us being able to see where the problem is through the app.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to come back to something you mentioned before too about you don't have to be a Temple Terrace resident to use it, like people just kind of passing through might be using it. Are you getting a lot of requests from folks who aren't residents of the city of Temple Terrace?
Yes, we do get a lot of anonymous requests.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to be sort of similar kind of things like potholes, tree limbs down, just sort of minor annoyances.
Yes, and sometimes is a light, one of the street lights. But sometimes we are able to fix some of the light issues, but sometimes it has to go to FDOT.
Oh, sure, yeah, depending on which road it's on.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so what about how the actual system works? Like, are you using AI to give you a bit of an assist at all?
No, not at all.
Have you thought about that, though? I mean, the amount of kind of other category requests you're getting, would that help you at all?
It hasn't gone, it's
not too
right
bad.
now, it's not that overwhelming.
Okay.
And, in the past year, we have received about a little over 200 requests.
Okay.
Most of them, 205 to be exact, they are completed. So no AI. The entire process from beginning to end, it's all city stuff, real city stuff.
Okay, and you said you've got like a kind of 100% completion rate for those requests. They've all been taken care of.
Yes.
Has it helped sort of speed things up at all? Like, is it making things work smoother from your perspective, do you think?
It is. It's very organized, and we keep records of everything through the app. So it's very helpful that way.
Yeah. How do you think, Maria, this makes government or civic service more accessible to people?
Because before, there, residents with like request tracker, the form that we had before, they would fill out the application, submit the request, and then hear back from the city when something was done or completed. Now they have the ability to interact with staff And not just any staff, sometimes it's with the director of the departments. They are in constant communication with city staff throughout the entire process.
Mm-hmm.
So they can even have comments. So it's kind of like a chat between the city and residents.
Okay. So lots of communication going on there. Well,
Yes.
Maria Rodriguez, Public Information Officer for the City of Temple Terrace, thank you so much for stopping by and talking about your program. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, coming up, it's Girl Scout cookie season. What are your favorites? Is it Thin Mints, Trefoils, Caramel Delights? Next, learn how these sweet treats give Scouts the skills to be good businesswomen. You're listening to Florida Matters live and local. Stay with us. More to come.
I'm Scott Tong. There is growing evidence that singing is good for us with other people or in the shower.
It has a whole host of health benefits. It can strengthen the lungs and diaphragm, help with breath control and support. It improves the immune system, and certainly it improves mood and reduces stress.
Next time, here and now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
Funding for WUSF comes from listeners like you, and also Seitenbacher, with a new web shop, healthy muesli, cold-pressed oils, and vegetable broth mix delivered to your door from right here in Tampa Bay. Details at Seitenbacher.com, Seitenbacher, Seitenbacher. Experience the Beacon Awards. The Climate Adaptation Center's 2026 Gala Luncheon honors leaders securing Florida's future through climate resilience. March 11th at Michael's on East. Tickets at theclimateadaptationcenter.org.
You can trust WUSF to keep you up to date with the Tampa Bay Rays stadium news. And WUSF.org is also a great place for spring training info. Get the guide to Florida's Grapefruit League, complete with schedules and ticket information at WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters, live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. Or you might see him in front of your local grocery store, on your doorstep, even on social media. If not, you might still be able to name one or two flavors of the best-selling Girl Scout cookies. Well, today we're taking a bite or two out of the annual tradition that started more than 110 years ago, helping girls raise money and learn important business skills. Now, which is your favorite? Is it Thin Mints, Caramel Delights? Did you sell them when you were younger? Let us know. Give us a call, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Well, the Girl Scouts of West Central Florida is one of many councils preparing booths and dusting off contact lists as they get ready for another season of selling. Christina Mitchell is the Chief Operating Officer at Girl Scouts of West Central Florida and joins us now to talk about the skills it teaches girls as young as kindergarten age. Christina, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I see you've got a couple of boxes here. If you just kind of hold them up, that's the camera there. So what do we got here?
So classic that everyone loves, Samoas with coconut. Our Thin Mint, the most popular one. Don't show up without Thin Mints, right? People love to put them in the freezer. And then our new cookie for this year is Explore More. So it's a Rocky Road inspired sandwich cookie that's chocolate. I've tried it a couple times. I think it's really good, dipped in some cold milk. So it'll be a new one for this year.
Okay, so and Thin Mints, as you say, you can throw them in the freezer. You probably just leave them outside your in your backyard over the weekend. It's been that cold. Do you have a favorite?
I do. My favorite are the Samoas.
Mm-hmm. And were you a Girl Scout?
I was not a Girl Scout, no, but I come from a long line of Girl Scouts. My grandmother was a Girl Scout. My mom was a Girl Scout. My grandmother loves to tell a story of when she was a Girl Scout that they had to bake the cookies themselves to sell. Yes.
Oh, man.
In fact, I found the recipe online and made it for my coworkers this year for Christmas. So.
Okay, what was it?
It was kind of like a trefoil, so a shortbread cookie. It's very, very good. Very simple, but so she says, well, if they're not making them, then, not working as hard.
So, I mean, is that the way this whole tradition started, with each troop just kind of baking, sort of like a bake sale type thing?
Yeah, I think so. And of course, we've grown since then and has become with bakers at this point. But I think it goes back to how we were founded with Julia Gordon-Low selling her pearls to get the Girl Scout movement started, right? So that women are empowered to use what their resources to fund what they find most important.
Yeah. Okay, so, scouting starts with daisies in kindergarten. How involved are the littlest scouts in the sort of business side of things?
It starts very simple for them, right? We want every Girl Scout to make decisions on how their funds will be used, right? So it may be something as simple as the girls deciding together what cause will they help to support during the end of the cookie season, right? Do they care about animals? Do they care about helping the homeless? So it starts very small and, of course, grows from there as the girls get older.
Yeah. And what do you think about learning how to sell cookies at a young age? How does that sort of prepare women for school, for life in the future?
Yeah, I think you get really quick experience in learning rejection, right? Not everyone is going to want a cookie, but it's really great to be able to learn how to say, well, thank you and have a great day anyway, right? And to bounce back and try again,
So some resilience in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I was just looking at some of the stats. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the kind of annual sales total is like $800 million worth of cookies or something like that. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, that is an enormous amount of cookies. And granted, it's for the entire country, but that kind of gives you a sense of the popularity of these things.
Oh, absolutely, right? So across the country, there's 110 councils just like ours. And so, very popular. And I think because we come in such a short window of time, too. You can't get them all year round. It's just that, sort of January through March timeframe.
Mm-hmm. And the names of the cookies, too, that varies a little bit, sort of from state to state, I should say.
Yeah, it depends on which baker that you have. There are 2 bakers who make the cookies, and there are a couple cookies, who have different regional names.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what sort of goes into creating these new flavors? Like this one, the Explore More you were describing with the Rocky Road sort of flavoring. Like, how often does this Girl Scouts come out with a new flavor?
Yeah, so it's not very often. I think it's at the most, it could be every 2 years, but I think they do just like any company would to make a new product. They test the market, have people sample it and try it and figure out what maybe in the cookie mix we're missing that, we didn't have a sandwich cookie that's chocolatey. So, and what they think will, not compete with what we already have. I mean, you can't compete with Thin Mint, but.
What about the cost of a box of cookies? Can you sort of break down how much of the So what would you be paying for a box of Thin Mints, for example?
Sure, $6 is any of the boxes of cookies that we have, yeah. And so about 25% of the sale of that goes back to the cost of the cookies, the warehousing, the logistics to get pallets and pallets of cookies from the baker to us. And then another 20% goes directly to the girls. So that's the funds that they can use for any cause or any fun adventure that they might have. And then the other percentage, about 20%, goes to the staff that support the girls throughout the year. And then the other 60% goes to, or that's not, 50% goes to the programs in our camps. So we cover 8 counties and have 4 properties where the girls have year-round camping experiences and summer camp programming.
Yeah. And presumably that sort of cost breakdown would be the same for every council.
That can vary from council to council.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you decide what sort of how to split it up? How does that decision get made?
That's a great question. We just look at the priorities of what's happening in the year. Our first priority is always how much can we give to the girls, right? That every year, if we can increase that, that's our biggest priority. And how can we reduce costs as best we can? But as with many products in the market, the cost of the cookies and the logistics to get them to the girls continues to rise. So it's a challenge that we have to reevaluate every year.
Yeah, imagine sort of inflation. Like what were the discussions like over the last couple of years with inflation sort of off the chain there? Because, I mean, people do love these cookies. I think people instinctively want to support a group of kids selling cookies, whether it's Girl Scouts or some other kind of charitable operation. So, when you see that booth outside the Publix or wherever you may be, you're like, okay, I want to support this, but maybe $6 is a little too far for me. So what was that discussion like?
Yeah, sure. So our girls have experienced everything we as adults have through COVID, right? As far back as that. So they've learned how to deal with shortages and how to deal with when the product isn't there that you need, and inflation as well, right? So for us, we made the choice to increase the price of the cookies by $1 2 years ago, which again helped us continue to give back to the girls. So I think when people see Girl Scouts, they should really keep in mind that this is teaching the girls business skills, and it gives girls who wouldn't have the opportunity to do this, to do experiences like this, the opportunity to do that. The funds help them create what their dreams are. And
yeah. We've got a call coming in. Ruth is on the line. Ruth, you're on the air. What are you thinking?
Hi. So I was a Girl Scout many, many years ago, and started 50 years ago. And I always loved selling the Girl Scout cookies. And one of the things that I think was important about it then was that one-on-one interaction. We went door to door. Times were a little different, but I do sort of mourn those days just because I think it taught us different skills. Now, a lot of cookies are sold through parents and workplaces, and I'm happy to see that the tables are set up outside of stores and businesses. Yeah. I think that comes kind of close to having the girls experience the sales and the demeanor that they need to have while they're out there in public.
For sure. Yeah. What was your favorite cookie back in the day?
Oh, mine was the trefoil, and they were made differently then. I still eat the ones that are made now, but they were a thinner, crisper cookie back then.
Yeah.
But they're still one of my favorites.
Yeah. And before I let you go, Ruth, do you remember how much a box of cookies cost back when you were selling them?
Oh, I do not. We're talking about over 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't remember much. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember how much they were. I vaguely remember that the troops got about 25 cents a box at that time.
Yeah. Ruth, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate that. I mean, what about that? Do you find there's a different way that they're being sold? Is it more kind of businesses, parents, sort of workplaces, and maybe less on the door-to-door stuff?
Sure. So coming out of COVID, we definitely saw fewer people willing and excited to go door to door. But the last couple of years, I'd say we have a lot more girls who are, grabbing a wagon and walking around their neighborhood with a parent, right? We teach them how to do that skill still, to go door to door. But it is a lot more, cookie booths or big festivals. We're finding if there's markets, then girls and troops will set up a table at a local market on a Saturday morning or even a sports game.
Anywhere with a crowd of people willing to spend some money. Got an email here from Anne who says, how do you encourage the girls to be the sellers and not let their well-meaning parents do it for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is the whole foundation of the program, right? And so we really train caregivers and troop leaders to take a step back and practice with the girls first, right, before they get to a cookie booth, or even if they're going to do digital sales online, that the girls have to make a video. And it's okay if the caregivers want to share the video, but the girls really need to craft the message and be able to say what they're selling cookies for.
Just before we close out here, how many sort of troops are there in the Girl Scouts of West Central Florida? You might have answered this already, but how many sort of troops do you have under your kind of oversight?
Yeah, sure. So over our 8 counties, there's about 1,000 troops.
So is this is like the busiest time of year for you?
It really is.
Yeah, that's a lot of boxes of cookies, right? Can you give me a rough idea how many you're expecting to move out the door?
Yeah, about 1.5 million.
Wow.
Yes.
And what happens to the leftovers?
We hope that there aren't many, but if there are leftovers, they are donated to causes that our girls care about.
And as we said earlier, you can shove a sleeve or two of cookies in the freezer and they'll keep for quite some time. We've been speaking with Christina Mitchell, Chief Operating Officer at Girl Scouts of West Central Florida. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Well, coming up tomorrow on Florida Matters Live and Local, if all this talk of cookies is making you drool, you want to hear about tomorrow's drooliest rodent around, capybaras. Hear about St. Petersburg's own Capybara Cafe. Tune in for that. That's our show for today. Florida Matters Live and Local executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producers are Emily Horace and Quincy Walters. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Gio Garvin. Jackson composes the theme music, And today, Warren Buckholz handled the video. You can subscribe to Florida Matters wherever you get your podcasts and watch on WUSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
In Cambodia, the Buddhist temple Angkor Wat is a remnant of an ancient empire. What caused the collapse of that empire has long been a mystery, but that's starting to change. Hear that story next time on The World.
You can hear The World today at 3. You're listening to WUSF 89.7 Tampa, broadcasting from studios at USF Tampa and USF Sarasota Manatee.
WUSF depends on contributions from people like you. And Tampa Bay Solar, on a mission to free you from high energy costs by reducing reliance on power companies and setting you on a path of independence. Navy SEAL owned. Details at tampabaysolar.com. Sills Music Mondays in Sarasota and Venice welcome a new season of acclaimed performers. On now through March 30th. Details are at sillsarasota.org. Sills Music Mondays, musical conversations with great performers.